Hello, everybody. Welcome into GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Wednesday, March 25th. We have a lot to get into. The MLB season first pitch in America is tomorrow. We're going to go over everything you're going to need to know for the baseball season at each and every single division with records for each and every team, who's going to make the playoffs, what each playoff series will look like, and what to expect heading into this year's MLB season. But before we get into any of that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you're on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Wednesday, March 25th. But like I was saying, we are going to get into step one of our all-day MLB coverage, starting off with the East divisions. These two divisions are some of the best divisions in all of baseball. We're going to start off with the NL East, and it is an absolute bloodbath at the top. You've got the Braves, the Phillies, and the Mets up there, all three of whom made the playoffs last year, all three of whom are expected to win over 90 games by Vegas. If you look at the over-unders, they're numbers 2, 3, and 4 in all of baseball. These three teams are dangerous. But we're going to start off at the bottom here. The Marlins, unsurprisingly, I think to anybody, are the worst team in this division. They've got a couple of pieces coming up from the minors that potentially could be something. They're getting another healthy season out of Sandy Alcantara. At least that's expected, although I do think Alcantara will be moved at the deadline as they continue to try and get out of this rebuild phase that they've been stuck in for a very long time. This season's not going to go well for them, and I think this is another year where they lose over 100 games. I think they go 58-104, end up losing the division, 5th place in the NL East. A little bit ahead of them, but not quite in that tier to compete for the playoffs yet, is the Washington Nationals. The Washington Nationals are a very intriguing team this season. They're a team that is packed with young talent. We talk about guys that are making their opening day debuts in Dylan Cruz and James Wood, as well as a lot of other young talent. They made a move at first base, bringing in Nathaniel Lowe. This is a Nationals team that is better than last year, but it's still not quite ready to compete in the playoffs. They're going to win about 75 games, which is over that 72.5 mark that Vegas has them set at. I like this Nats team. Maybe that's a little bit of fan bias in me. I like what they're starting to build, especially on the pitching staff, and if their young talent can step up this year, this is a team that, while they're not going to make the playoffs, could be a little more dangerous than people think. Third place in this division, we have the New York Mets. The Mets went on a run last season. They made it all the way to the NLCS, where they fell to the Dodgers. Eventually, the Dodgers go out and win the World Series there. Their over-under this year is set at 90, and with good reason. They have gone out, and they have continued to build on a team that made it to the NLCS last year. The Mets went out, and they brought in Juan Soto. They spent over $1 billion on that roster this offseason. Now they pair Francisco Lindor with Juan Soto. Pete Alonso returns here. That is a pretty deadly top three. The rest of the lineup, not too bad itself, but the big issue for them is pitching, starting pitching especially. Clay Holmes, Taylor McGill, Griffin Canning, David Peterson, and Kodai Senga currently, by Fangraphs metrics, are expected to be the starter. A lot of that's because they already have four starting pitchers, I should say, on the injured list. Paul Blackburn, Sean Manaea, Frankie Montas, and Christian Scott, all on that injured list. They're all hurt right now. That is a tough spot to be, especially at a position of weakness like starting pitching is for the Mets. If they're able to figure out starting pitching, that bullpen's great. You've still got Edwin Diaz and AJ Minter, who they brought in. This is a good Mets team, but I just don't quite see them, because of that starting pitching, being able to compete with the top two teams in the division enough to go and surpass them in the Phillies and the Braves. At number 2 in the NL East, I'm going with those Philadelphia Phillies. We already know all about their lineup, right? You've got Schwarber, you've got Trey Turner, you've got Bryce Harper, you've got JT Realmuto, Nick Castellanos, Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm, all of these guys. This is an incredibly stacked lineup, one that can hit a home run basically any given at bat. But the real strength of this team is in the starting pitching. You've got Zach Wheeler, you've got Aaron Nola, you've got Jesus Luzardo, who they traded for, Christopher Sanchez, Taijuan Walker coming out in case of injury. Same thing with Joe Ross. Ranger Suarez dealing with some injuries right now, some back tightness. He should be back fine pretty soon, but you have 6-7 solid starting pitchers on this team to go with that really good lineup. I think this team wins 90 games, second place in the division, only because the Braves are back and healthy. We have a healthy Spencer Strider. You're going to get Ronald Acuna back within about a month of the season starting. You're adding him when he comes back to a defense, especially an outfield of Jurickson Profar and Michael Harris. Put in Ronald Acuna there. You've got a really solid infield in the corners, Austin Riley and Matt Olson. You've got Ozzie Albies at second base and Orlando Arcia at shortstop. This is an elite team top to bottom. Chris Sale, the reigning NL Cy Young winner. You're going to get back Spencer Strider soon. That one is huge. You add on top of that Reynaldo Lopez and Spencer Schwellenbach, AJ Smith-Scheuer, and Grant Holmes, all of these guys that can come in and do a really good job for your team. But this is a Braves team that, as long as they stay healthy, which hasn't really been the best so far. We're dealing with a couple injuries, including catcher Sean Murphy, and that one's going to hurt a little bit. But at the end of the day, it can't be as bad as last season, and this is a team that, if they're healthy, is on paper one of the most dangerous teams in all of baseball. So the NL East, I've got the Marlins at 5, 58 and 104, the Nats at 4, 75 and 87, the Mets at 3, 86 and 76, and the Phillies at 2, 90 and 72, and the Braves at 97 and 65, winning the division. On the AL side of things, this division is going to be messy. We saw the Orioles and Yankees fighting all season last year for the top spot. I think both of them got worse. Of course, the Yankees lose Juan Soto. The Orioles lose Corbin Burns, two of the best in the game at their respective jobs. That's going to hurt a lot. And at the end of the day, I don't think either of them make a case to win this division. Now, there are a lot of good teams in this division. 1 to 5, Blue Jays, Rays, Yankees, Orioles, Red Sox, all of them I expect to be very good this season, but it's going to be very tough to see for how many are going to make the playoffs. We're going to start off at number 5. The Blue Jays, I love the moves. It's an old team with a lot of old pitchers. You've got Max Scherzer coming in to be a starting pitcher along with Jose Barrios. This is not necessarily a Toronto team that is built for the long term. You have Anthony Santander, the big free agent that they bring in. Vlad Guerrero is on a contract year, so you need to figure something out with him. Bo Bichette's been struggling in recent seasons. They need him to step it back up. I like the trades they made. Andres Jimenez, extending Alejandro Kirk. There's some good stuff here, but again, you're relying a lot on some old arms. Max Scherzer, the oldest one in there at 40 years old. You've got Chris Bassett at 36, Kevin Gausman at 34, Jose Barrios at 30, and Bowden Francis at 28, who's the only one sub 30 there, but still, that's a really, really old pitching staff. The bullpen, really not much younger. You're relying on Jeff Hoffman, a 32-year-old closer, Chad Green, 33, Yimi Garcia at 34, to be your back-end guys. It hurts a little bit. And because of that, I just don't have a lot of faith in this team. 75 wins, 5th place in that division. Number 4 was tough. I decided to put the New York Yankees here at the 4th place spot in their division, and I know that sounds kind of crazy, right? Because the Yankees made the World Series last year. The Yankees almost won the World Series. They took the Dodgers to 5 games, but they were the AL pennant winner. They have the reigning AL MVP in Aaron Judge, but they lost his protection. Juan Soto is gone, and I'm not saying that Aaron Judge isn't going to be able to hit without him, because He set a AL record for home runs without Juan Soto, won an MVP without him a couple years ago in a similar situation where he didn't have a lot of protection. But the real concern for the Yankees is the injury spot, right? This is something that has been kind of an issue for them for a little while now, especially with an aging core. Not only are you missing your number one pitcher to Tommy John, one of the best pitchers in the league in Garrett Cole, but you're also now missing one of your most dangerous batters in the entire league in your lineup, Giancarlo Stanton, also probably out for the season. This is just not good. Luis Heel, Clark Schmidt dealing with injuries. This is just not a team that is starting off the season right. And it's a bad look for them because they really, really need to come back. They lost a lot of key talent in the offseason, especially Juan Soto. They bring in Cody Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt to kind of replace him in the aggregate a little bit, but it's just not quite going to be enough. And I don't like the way that this Yankees team is going, and the injuries already starting to tear it apart. I just don't quite believe in this Yankees team. They're fourth place in this division at 80-82. Third place in this division, I'm going to give to the Baltimore Orioles. The Baltimore Orioles, a very good squad, but their biggest weakness, and a weakness that they didn't really address this offseason, is with the pitching staff. They lose Corbin Burnes, and this is a team that had the bats to do it. Their offense was hitting like nobody's business all the way up until the near end of that season. You've still got a lot of that base there. Colton Cowser, Adley Rutschman, Jordan Westberg, Ryan Mountcastle, Cedric Mullins, Jackson Holliday. You're gonna be able to get Gunnar Henderson back when he gets healthy soon. But the pitching, they just did not deal with, right? They had their biggest weakness, which was pitching. They traded for Zach Eflin, and now he's going to be number one. You're also relying on a 41-year-old Charlie Morton. This is just not the way to go. They lose one of the best pitchers in the league, and they aren't aggressive enough in the pitcher market to go out get even a guy like a Jack Flaherty. Instead, now they're relying on Cade Povich and Tamayuki Sugano out of Japan, who they brought in this year at 35 years old. Dean Kramer, not really what you want to rely on for a team that has playoff hopes. I just don't trust this team. Injuries also killing them. Grayson Rodriguez already going down with injuries. Kyle Bradish, Taylor Wells, Trevor Rogers, Chase McDermott. This is just not the way that you expected it to go if you're the Orioles. And again, injuries are going to be an issue, especially when it comes to the guys on the mound. I think they fall to third place. At number 2, I've got the Tampa Bay Rays. The Tampa Bay Rays are going to be playing in a minor league stadium, but I love this Rays team. The Rays always seem to find their way to great pitching, but the one thing that I think is going to be really big for them is they're going to get a full season of Junior Caminero. Junior Caminero, one of the top prospects in all of baseball. He graduated last season, but he is a special talent at third base. They've got a lot of young guys coming up. Johnny DeLuca, just over a year of service time. Jonathan Aranda, just over a year of service time. Josh Lau, who's got 2 years of service time, and of course Junior Caminero, who has less than 0.1, less than 10% of a year played, just 0.05 of service time right now. This is a huge moment for this Rays team, and I absolutely love what they're doing offensively. Again, the pitching, always going to be there. You have a little bit of hesitation from me because of the injury suffered once again to Shane McClanahan. That is something that they need to have. They can't have McClanahan continuing to go down. It sucks that he's down for a little bit here. They're going to get Ha-Seong Kim back to add to that lineup. They brought him in from the Padres. I love what he's going to be able to do when he slides in to that shortstop position, most likely. This is a Rays team that, as long as they can just survive the injuries that continue to plague them, their pitching is going to do enough. And I think they've got a real shot of making some noise in the AL. I've got them at second, 84-78. And that, of course, leads to our number 1 team here, the Boston Red Sox. The Boston Red Sox have had an amazing offseason. Not only do they land a massive fish trading for probably the best pitcher available, a true ace, trading from the White Sox yet again in Garrett Crochet to add to an already stacked pitching staff filled with Tyler Houck, sign Walker Buehler's, Richard Fitz, Sean Newcomb they bring in, as well as having Brian Bayo, Cutting Crawford, Lucas Giolito, Chris Murphy, Patrick Sandoval. Although a lot of those guys are injured, they should be back soon. Just shoulder soreness and knee soreness, strained hamstring for Bayo, Crawford, and Giolito, respectively. Sandoval and Chris Murphy, a little bit longer term stuff. But if you get Bayo, Crawford, and Giolito back into that starting pitching rotation, you now have a rotation of Crochet, Houck, Buehler, Giolito, Bayo, and Cutter Crawford. That is an incredible six-man rotation, not to mention what they did on the offensive side of the ball, bringing in a guy like Alex Bregman. Alex Bregman, who I think was born to hit at Fenway Park. He loves to hit it against that left field wall, and having that green monster there, short field, it's just got to be tall. He's going to have the most doubles you have ever seen, maybe long singles you've ever seen. Him playing third base is going to immediately help that defense as long as Rafael Devers is okay with playing DH. They're going to bring in Kirsten Campbell to play second base, the rookie. He's going to have a good year. He's done a really good job at camp, and I love the talent offensively. Jarren Duran, Rafi Devers, Alex Bregman, Trenton Cassis, Trevor Story, Kirsten Campbell, Weiler Abreu, Connor Wong. These are all really great. This is a really great team. I don't see a lot of weaknesses with this team. I love this Red Sox squad. I think they win 90 games, and I think they win the AL East. So overall for you, we have the Blue Jays at number 5, the Yankees at number 4, the Orioles at number 3, and the Rays at number 2, and the Red Sox at number 1. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the AL or the NL numbers right now. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we turn our attention over to the Central divisions. We broke down the AL East and the NL East. This time, we take a look at the NL Central and the AL Central. That's coming up next here on GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast.